Great, thank you. I want to talk a little bit about role models for women. And I'm going to borrow from a film I recently saw called Misrepresentation. Has anyone seen that?
Yep.
So Misrepresentation is a fabulous documentary created by Jennifer Seibel Newsom, which looks at how women are still portrayed as sexual objects often in the media. And one of the statements that stood out for me in this film was, "You cannot be what you cannot see." And I looked back to my life when I was starting off trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And my role models ended up being male role models when I was younger. So I was wondering if each of you could just say who one of your role models was when you were just kind of starting off, and how that person influenced you a little bit. So
Right.
anyway, we don't have to go in order if someone else wants to start. But.
I'll go.
Okay, good.
I actually think I've gleaned a lot from a different set of role models. I think you have a lot of different parts of your life. I would definitely say my mom is a role model. I mean, she's an entrepreneur. She started a business that's still going very well. She doesn't have a college education, and you would never know it. She goes in front of court almost every week, and she's funny, and she doesn't care that she just has life in her. And I realized through her that if you're passionate and you go for it, it actually doesn't matter. She used to always tell me, like, don't ask, just do it. Like, if you prove to other people that you're just as capable as them, at some point they'll pay you, but for a while they may not. I think that's an incredible, role model to grow up with. But then on the other side, she always said you should, like my sister's a doctor, she always said you should be a nurse, you shouldn't be a doctor. Like, she didn't want us to compromise ourselves as women, so you kind of have this conflicting thing where you do feel like, even if she's an amazing role model, that there's always that pressure that maybe you shouldn't go as far as you think you should. So I think there's a balance, as every female has to decide. I was lucky that my mom was both a business person and entrepreneur, and also a great mom. So I do think that role model is incredibly prevalent. But if I look at the business aspects of my life, they were definitely men. And they were guys who just said, you're worth having a 10-minute or 5-minute conversation with about whatever you're interested in. I'm going to help you find the next person that's going to help you along your journey. And I never, in that process, found that because I was a woman, that there was a hindrance. Maybe even better, because they were all guys. I was a girl being like, please help me get a little, I'd love to move to Peru. But yeah, I never felt a hindrance from them, probably more from my own family circumstance.
It's interesting. I guess I have family role models, but there wasn't anybody that I wanted to be like. There wasn't anybody I knew that was following the path that I was following. One of the wonderful things about being involved with the Anita Borg Institute is meeting these amazing women and being able. One of the nice things of being on the advisory board is you actually get to spend time with them. So for the last, 4 years now, Fran Allen's been on one or another of my committees, and Fran Allen's the first woman to get a Turing Award. And working with Fran has been thrilling, just because she's so kind and down to earth and excellent. But like last year at the Hopper Conference, I was honored to be able to introduce one of the award winners, Anna Karia, who is a woman in Nairobi, Kenya, who 10 years ago started Narrowbits to help young women learn about technology. And in a incredibly difficult circumstances, she's got funding and just kept plowing on through. There are so many women like that. Mary Lou Jepson, who did the technology for one laptop per child. And I go to conferences for one thing or another, but nothing speaks to my heart like going to the Hopper Conference and sitting and listening to somebody talk and saying, I could do that. I could do that. I could definitely do that.
I'm sorry for others who, what, could you explain the Hopper
Oh,
Conference?
so the Grace Hopper Celebration for Women in Technology has been going for about 15 years now. It was started by Anita Borg, who also started what is now the Anita Borg Institute for Women in Technology. It is the largest technical conference for women. It's about half students, and the other half are from academia or from industry. And if you want to meet the head of everything who's a woman, that's where you would go. It's once a year, and it's sort of like meeting all the sisters you never knew you had, and going to these meetings and walking out and saying, I'm definitely redesigning things. I could definitely redesign something. You know, you come away with technical ideas, you come away with social ideas, you come away with role models, and it's like this refreshment. You know, you know how when it's like a hot day and your skin's getting drier and drier and you're beginning to sort of feel like a potato crisp, like you're crinkling up, and you go there and it's like wonderful being having lotion all over you or something. You sort of I feel so comfortable. I feel like there's people I can actually talk to. There's people that I can be like. There's people I can learn from, and I'm not the only one. I'm not the only woman. I'm not the only senior woman. I'm not the only one who's done things like I've done. And it's just fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, I have to say, as I've gone through my career, I've started to look for instance, what women were there in management positions above me in corporations. And unfortunately, I can't think of a single one. I think it has something to do with when I graduated from college, the time. But in my IBM, which was where I started out, I have to say there were all kinds of really wonderful male managers whom I was working with and for. And I think that they were sort of the inspiration. I don't think of any one of them in particular. I do think there was a particular role model in IBM that I looked up to. Some of you who might have worked for IBM a long time ago would know the name Buck Rogers. Okay, Buck Rogers was like the head of sales, and he was the best speaker I had ever seen in my life. Okay, and he very early on, before teleprompters or anything, he would walk onto a stage with a mic like this, and he would deliver, a 20-minute presentation. And he was just phenomenal, and I always wanted to be Buck Rogers. Okay. I had my chance a few years ago when we did the first kickoff for Global Women's Leadership Network, and I decided I was going to do my Buck Rogers moment. So I walked out on stage, I had the whole thing memorized, and I was scared to death. And I started out, and about 2 sentences along the way, I lost my way in my prepared remarks, right? And so I had been told that I could be endearing if I did that, so I went over and I kind of looked at my notes, and then I went back. But anyway, it was a great thing to have this sort of, career-long aspiration that I finally was able to fulfill on, and it really was a great day. I have to say that later on, I think that as, we have a lot of great role models. I knew Anita. Okay, she was a phenomenal woman, and obviously a leader in the technology field. We have, I went to hear Gloria Steinem speak the other day about the women's movement. I think we have a lot of great role models today, and I think that as younger women, you're pretty lucky to have some people that you can rely on, not only, right, to be role models, but to ask to be mentors for you, okay? And I have lots of women. Now we have 139 graduates of our leadership program, scattered around the world in 38 mostly developing countries. I just admire every single one of them. There are a couple sitting in the audience. Sema Bassel's here in the front, and she knows about role models because she started a program called Turkish Women's Initiative in Turkey. And it has 4 colleges now participating, 4 groups of young women, and one of the objectives is to expose them to role models, because many of them come from families where their mother may only have a 4th or 5th grade education. So I think it's even more important in some of the developing countries that there be some visibility for the women who are the pioneers, okay, who are really leading the way. And thank you, Sema, for giving some young Turkish women that opportunity.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to have to say that one of the primary role models for me was my mother, who raised 4 kids, got her master's degree, and held a full-time job all at the same time, and helped her husband get his PhD during all of this. And she continues to be a role model to me today. And also a cheerleader in a way. I think everybody needs somebody to spur them on, and she continues to spur me on. So I have to say that she really, her drive and her ambition and her caring for others around her have really helped to inspire me. But also, I think I met Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba in China, several years ago, and I went to interview him in Hangzhou, in his hometown of Hangzhou, and I had a great interview with him, and he said some things that really stayed with me over the years. So one of the things that he said was, when I am myself, I am happy and I have a good result. So from then on, people, try to reinvent themselves or try to mold themselves to be something, but you only have to be yourself. And this is what I, sort of instilled in my own kind of growing up. And I think it's true. When you are yourself, you're happy and you have a good result. And so I think I've been very inspired by that, very motivated by that. And so, but that's from all the way from China, from a Chinese entrepreneur who is now worth many billions and is continuing to set his own way, very independent, a real maverick, just an incredible person, an incredible visionary. And I'm just so amazed by the way that he thinks, and so open-minded the way that he thinks. So he's an inspiration to me and a role model to me. He's one of the people that I write about, but I have to say that he has influenced me, as well as some other entrepreneurs that I've met as too.
And he's been quite successful, too.
Yeah.
Sounds like good words of wisdom.